Hi, this is Ryan at Vacation Rental Bookkeeping. Today we're going to be looking at how to get your QuickBooks Online account ready to send 1099 forms to your independent contractors. This video is designed especially for clients of Vacation Rental Bookkeeping, but others may find the information helpful as well. Let's go ahead and jump right into QuickBooks Online, and we'll take a look at what we need to do. First thing we need to do is figure out who you need to give a 1099 to. To do that, we're going to first click on Reports, and then in the search box, just type the word Vendor, and we're going to use the Expenses by Vendor Summary Report. Now, just make a quick mention that QuickBooks is currently phasing out some of their old reports and replacing them with new ones. So if you're watching this video later and this report no longer exists, I'll just quickly show you what you might need to do instead. So I'll just pull up another screen here. And so you would go to Reports, and the new report that replaces this one is called Transaction List by Vendor. And so you could use that report instead. At the time I'm videoing this, I don't like this report quite as well as the Expenses by Vendor Summary. So I'm going to use the old one, but if the old one's no longer available, then this one may help you out. So I just wanted to mention that in case the old report is no longer available. All right, once you have the Expenses by Vendor Summary report open, first we're going to set the dates. I'm looking at this in December of the year that I want to prepare 1099s for. So I'm going to select this year. If you're looking at it in January, then you'll need to select last year in order to look at the previous year's data. I'm going to select this year, and you'll probably also want to select cash basis because 1099s are prepared on a cash basis. So we'll run that report. So you should be looking at January through December of the year that you want to send 1099s for. One other thing to do that is helpful is to sort this list in descending order by total. So that will put the sort it instead of alphabetical, it'll do it by total. And the reason for that is normally you don't have to send a 1099 to anyone that you paid less than $600 to. And so it makes it easy to see who was over the $600 limit. Now there are exceptions to that rule, but that's kind of a general standard. So from this list, what you need to do is figure out who on this list needs to receive a 1099. Not everyone that you paid over $600 to needs to receive a 1099. For example, the Department of Revenue is a government organization. You do not need to send 1099s to them. Large corporations like Home Depot and Amazon, you don't need to send 1099s to. Generally, you're sending them to people you paid $600 or more by either cash, check, or ACH transfer. But the rules on sending 1099s are complicated, and that's not the purpose of this video. So if you're not sure exactly who to send them to, you need to consult with your CPA or tax preparer to be sure that you know who to send them to. But this report can help you to see who that might need to be. And so that is what you need to do first, is figure out who needs to receive a 1099. All right, once you have that figured out, then what we need to do is set up QuickBooks to prepare those 1099s. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to mention because I've found by experience that if you paid someone to do a capital improvement for you, okay, so that's usually going to be a very large expense where you're improving an asset that you own. For example, if you paid someone $15,000 to put a deck on your house, that's generally going to be recorded as a capital improvement on your balance sheet. So what I found is this report does not include those types of payments. It only includes payments that are going to show up on your profit and loss report, not the balance sheet. So if that might be the case for you, the way that you could find that out for sure Let's just go ahead and do another tab here. So I'm going to go to reports, but open in a new tab so I don't lose my other report. And we're going to run the balance sheet. If it's not up here in your favorites, you can search for it up here. And let's run it for the tax year that you would like to look at. For me, it will be this year. Yours might be last year. And then what you want to do, so the capital improvements should have been recorded in the fixed asset section of the balance sheet. So all you need to do is go right here to total fixed assets and click on the total. That will open up a report and it will show you anybody that you paid for capital improvements during the year. And so you can review that report. This is a sample company with not much data, so I just have one entry here. This is to Lowe's, and I wouldn't need to send them a 1099 because they're a large corporation. But if you had an individual that you paid a large amount to and you paid them with a check, then you would need to add them to your list. But they're not going to show up on this report right here. So you can decide who you're going to send to from the expenses by vendor summary, and then also from the fixed asset report here. All right, once you know who you're going to send the 1099 to, we need to tell QuickBooks that you want to do that. So what we're going to do is go to expenses and contractors. All right, so here we see several tabs up here. We're under contractors. Contractors is the list of people that are set up to receive a 1099. You can see in my case, I don't have anybody. If you have already sent 1099s in previous tax years, you should already see a list of people that you have already set up in the past. And so if you have that, then you're a step ahead and you already have some of your contractors ready to go. If you don't, that's okay. That's what we're going to show you how to set up. All right, so we would be tempted to just click this button to add your first contractor, but that's not what we want to do here. We're going to look under this tab called vendors. Vendors is a list of everybody that you've ever paid money to. Okay, mine is kind of short because again, this is a sample company, but you probably have a very long list of vendors. And so the people that you want to send a 1099 to should already be in the vendors page. We just need to tell QuickBooks that they are a 1099 contractor and need to receive that tax form. All right, so from my list, let's say that I want to send 1099 to Spot On Cleaners and John R. Handyman are the two that I'd like to send. Okay, so what I'm going to do, again, I'm at expenses and I'm under vendors. I'm going to find those two vendors and I can just scroll down or you can search for them in the list here. And I'm going to open the vendor page for John R. Handyman. And you'll see all the times that you've paid him. What we're going to do is click this edit button. And then we are going to put in his information. All right, so to send a 1099, you want to make sure that you have put in his name correctly. If he has a company name, you would put that in here. Let's just say he's a independent contractor and doesn't have necessarily a company name, but if he does, you would put that here. The email is very helpful here. It's not required, but if you'd like him to receive his 1099 by electronic through email, then you would need to make sure that's entered. So I'll go ahead and put an email in there. And then the address is required. You do have to have an address because they have to receive a paper copy. And so we have to have an address. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in an address for this handyman. Yeah, we're just going to make something up here. All right, so I have his address entered. And then probably the most important part is you're going to go down here to additional info. And you need to click this box right here. It says track payments for 1099. That tells QuickBooks that you want this person to be a 1099 contractor and for them to receive a 1099. You also need to enter his tax ID number. I've already entered the ID number for this contractor, so it's already filled in and I can't edit it anymore. I could edit it, but it's already there, so I don't need to type it in. If yours is blank, then you'll need to enter the tax ID number. And that would either be the person's social security number or their EIN number if they have one. And they would be responsible to provide you with the correct number. And we'll talk a little about later how you can get that from them, but you need to put that in here once you have it available. And so the key is make sure this little checkbox is marked. And then we'll click Save. All right, so now if we go back to the vendor list, you'll see under the 1099 tracking, we have a little checkbox under John R. Handyman. Okay, and if I go back to contractors, now I've got my first contractor set up. Okay, so he's set up, his address is entered, and so he's all ready to go. He has his tax ID number put in there and address, and so he's ready to send a 1099 to. Okay, I also wanted to send one to Spot On Cleaners. So I'm going to come in here and edit. And let's say that right now I don't know their address or email or tax ID. I'm still trying to get that from them, but I do want to at least check the box saying that I do want to send them a 1099. We can come back in later and fill in their information if we don't have it yet. Okay, so now I have the little checkbox checked for those two. And I can come over here to contractors and I see my list. I'll see a little error warning for this one because I have not entered their tax ID and their address. And so I can't send the 1099 until I get that. But at least I've told QuickBooks that I do want to send them one. All right, so that page is looking good. Now, a best practice would be to, as you hire these contractors, to get their information before you ever send them any money. That way, they're required to send you their tax ID number and their address and email, everything that you need. And you can always request that by sending them a W-9 form. That's the way you're supposed to do it. And so it's nice if you just put this in as you go through the year. So at the end of the year, it's all ready to go. Okay, so what we're going to do now that we have that set up is we're going to click here on Prepare 1099s. All right, on the first page here, first of all, you'll see some deadlines. 1099s are available to send starting on January 1st. If you do it by the 15th, you can get a discount. They have to be done by the 28th this year. We're looking at 2024 right now, sending them for 2023. It has to be done by the 28th for QuickBooks to guarantee that they will be sent out on time. You want to review the information for your own company. Make sure your company's name is put in here, email, address, and your either EIN or social security number. So make sure that you put that in for your business. There's some FAQs here that you can look at. Just the one I'll point out here is the one that says how much does this cost. So you can see the pricing that QuickBooks will charge you. The pricing goes down the more 1099s you send. And you can see there's a discount if you get them done by January 15th. All right, so we're going to go here to confirm info and start filing. And you'll see there are 4 steps that we need to complete. The first one is the most complicated. And what this step is, we need to select the accounts, or in other words, the expense categories that were used when we paid those 1099 contractors. All right, what this is allowing us to do is if you had a situation where, let's say you paid somebody to do maintenance work, but you also reimbursed them for supplies, and you have determined that you only need to report the maintenance work on the 1099, not the supply reimbursements, just as an example. All right, this page allows you to handle a situation like that. But even if you don't have a situation like that, you still have to complete this page. So in other words, what you need to do is tell QuickBooks which expense categories should be reported on the 1099s for your contractors. You can see in mine, I already have quite a few set up. The most obvious one is contractor expense, but you may also have other things like repairs, maintenance, Just depends on your particular situation. So the ones that I have chosen, the handyman, his expenses would be either under maintenance or repairs, and then the cleaners, in my case, would be under this category right here, cleaning expense. So I actually have them on here already, but if you don't, if this list is blank, or you need to add more to the list, all you have to do is come up here to select accounts. And this will show all the categories in your chart of accounts. You're generally going to be looking at the ones called expenses, possibly the ones called cost of goods sold. If you had capital improvements, then you would also be looking in the assets section. And what you need to do is check all the ones that were used when you paid these contractors that you chose earlier. Okay, they all have to be selected here. Okay, so let's just say, for example, that I also needed this account to be included. So I'll just click on it and click as many as you want. And so it's going to add that to the bottom here. And then once you do that, you have to tell QuickBooks which 1099 form that should go on. In most cases, it's going to be this one right here, the NEC, box 1. All right, so that's what I'm going to select here. The only other one that you might possibly use would probably be rents, box 1 on the 1099 MISC. So that would be used if you paid rent to somebody. If you rented anything from them and you paid them more than $600 by check or cash or ACH. If you're a property manager and you're going to report net rent payouts to your property owners, then you could use QuickBooks to send those 1099s, and you would use this option right here. So that's for a property manager that's reporting net rent payouts. If you're a property manager and you're going to report gross rent that the property owners earned, not necessarily how much you actually sent them, the gross rent cannot be done in QuickBooks, and so you can't use this. You'd have to send them 1099s through another method. But if you were going to do net rent, you would go here. In our case, the account would be a liability account. Let's see if we can find it here. Okay, so in our case, it would be less owner payouts. So you would select that, and then you would select box 1 for 1099 MISC. All right, so that again is for property managers showing net rent on the 1099. If you're doing gross, you cannot do that. If you're not sure which one to do, you would need to consult with your CPA and ask them about which way you should do it. I don't need to do that for this case, so I'm going to get rid of that one. All right, if you are a client of Vacation Rental Bookkeeping, we will help you with step 1. When you tell us that you're ready for that step to be done, we can come in here and help you get this set up. All right, once you have all the accounts selected, and most likely you're going to be selecting that non-employee compensation box 1, then we're just going to go to next. And it's going to give you a list of here's the 1099s that QuickBooks is preparing to send for you. And so I have my 2 contractors on there. And this is the amount that QuickBooks is going to report on the 1099. I like to compare back to this sheet right here and just make sure it matches. Okay, 1125 and 740 looks good. If they don't match, there could be a couple reasons. One is because you haven't selected the correct accounts back here in step 1, and you need to go back to that step and fix that issue. The other could be because you paid these contractors partially or completely by credit card. Okay, so you don't have to send 1099s to anybody you paid with a credit card. And you can see it in the little note here. So QuickBooks is automatically going to exclude any credit card payments from these totals. So for example, if I paid Spot On Cleaners $1,000 by ACH and 125 by credit card, it's only going to show 1,000 here, even though I paid them 1,125. It will automatically exclude that, and there's no way that you can change that. It's just the way they do it. So that would be why, some possible reasons why these amounts would not match what you saw on this report. But you want to make sure this is looking the way you want it to. All right, so what I'm looking at right now is tracked for 1099, reportable payments only. If I change this to non-reportable, I'm not going to show anything on mine, but here's where you would see if you had paid some of those people by credit card, you would see the non-reportable amount, which is usually the credit card amount, or if it's under $600, it would be on this page. Okay, so QuickBooks is basically saying anything on this screen, you don't need to send a 1099 for. The ones on here, you do need to send it for. And you just need to make sure that you agree with the way it's coming up with these totals. You can see we have an error here because I still haven't entered the address and tax ID for this contractor. So it's not going to let me send a 1099 yet. I have to have that in there first. Okay, you can fill it in on the vendor page we saw earlier, or you can even fill it in right here. You can go through and tell it the information that it wants to have. Once you get it all filled in, it'll let you check the box and send a 1099 to them. This one is not tracked for 1099. These are all the vendors that we didn't check the little box for, that we're saying I don't need to send 1099s to them. We're not even going to consider them. If you do see one on here that needs a 1099, you can add this. You can click this little link here, and that's just the same as checking that little box. It's going to move them from this tab over to this tab. All right, so once you're happy with that, how that looks and you feel like this is correct, then we're ready to move on to preview forms, step 3. So I only see the one here because I can't send the one without the address yet. I have to finish that first. All right, so they're going to show me this is exactly what I'm going to form. This was the NEC forms, and if you had any miscellaneous, I don't have any of those, but that would be for the rent paid. You can see the 2 different types of forms. All right, this would be for if you already filed some. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to do them all at once. Okay, like right now I could file John Handyman now and then later come back and do this one. And if I did that, later I would see John Handyman already complete, and then the Spot On Cleaners would be here ready to go. So I can do that at more than one time. All right, so let's see that that is all good. I like the way that looks. You can even click this and actually see an example of what the 1099 is going to look like. And then we can click next. It's going to show you the filing complete. And then next again will take you to step 4, which is where you're actually going to file. I can't do it yet because I'm still in December. You have to wait till January 1st to file. There's 3 options for filing. One is contractor payments, which is a monthly fee, and it includes more than just 1099 filing. It's ability to pay contractors right through QuickBooks. But again, that's a monthly fee. Probably most people are going to choose e-file, or they're going to just charge you per form that's filed. Remember, the pricing was on the FAQs that we saw earlier in the video. The pricing does change after January 15th. There's a discount up through January 15th. And the third option is print and mail. Most people, that's not going to be a good option. 1099s have to be printed on special paper. You can't just print them on regular plain paper. You have to get special paper, which you have to purchase and get everything lined up in your printer, and then you have to mail them out. It's for most people, it's going to be a lot easier just to do the e-file, where QuickBooks will do all that for you. They'll send out the e-file to the IRS. They'll send the contractor their form electronically, as long as you've put in an email address, and they'll send out the paper copy by mail. And so that's mostly what people are going to choose. And so you can click that once we're up to January 1st, and you can complete the payment and file your 1099s. All right, so let's just do a couple other things here before we wrap this up. So I wanted to talk to you about how do you get the information for contractors that are missing information. So we go back here, this vendor is missing information. So there's a few ways you can get that. The standard way is to have them fill out a W-9 form, and you can search on any internet browser for a W-9 form. You can print this off, give it to them, ask them to fill it out. And they're required to do that as a 1099 contractor. And so they'll fill out all the information you need. They'll tell you what kind of business they are, which helps you decide if you even need to send them a 1099. They'll give you their address and their tax ID number. And so that is a good way to do that. Once you get that, then you can go back to the vendors page and open up their page, and you can edit, and you can fill in everything they gave you. You can even attach a copy of their W-9 right here. And once you have that filled in, the error should go away and you'll be able to file for them. The other option is if you're on the contractors page and you click on the contractor that has missing information, there's a little link right here called send email. And what that does, you can put in their name and you can also put in their email address. And QuickBooks will send them an email and ask them to basically electronically fill out this form. And when they electronically fill it out, their data automatically will show up in your QuickBooks account. And so that's kind of handy. If you want to see how it actually works, just click this little preview button. And on this page, there's a video that you can watch, and it'll actually show exactly how the process works, what it'll look like on their end. The contractor actually does need to set up a free account with Intuit in order to do this. So you might want to just look at how the process works and make sure you know what you're doing if you're going to use that option. But it is kind of nice. You'll get an email that'll say, hey, your contractor just filled out their electronic W-9 and it's all filled out and ready to go. So you can choose which way that you would like to get their information. Again, the best way is to do that as you go through the year. So at the end of the year, this page is all filled out and ready to go. We have seen situations where contractors don't want to provide their information. So if you get it at the very beginning before you send them any money, they're more motivated to give that to you. All right, so a quick recap. The first thing you need to do is decide who you're going to send a 1099 to. That's going to be by this expenses by vendor summary report. Once you have figured that out, you're going to go to expenses and contractors right here. It's going to take you right to this page. And make sure that you have the list right here. These are the people that you want to send to. You're going to go to prepare 1099s, confirm info. You're going to go through the 4 steps that we outline in the video in order to be able to file. If you're one of our clients, then what we ask you to do is make sure you have this list complete before you contact us. So you've chosen who you want to send them to, and you've also filled in their address and email and tax ID number. Okay, so you have this page all ready to go. Once you've done that, like I said earlier, we'll help you with step 1. So once they're all in there, you can let us know and we'll come in and help set this page up for you. And then the other thing we'll do is once you have this step 2, where you feel like this is exactly the way it needs to be, we've got everybody on here, all their information's in, you feel like the amounts are correct, then we'll be glad to come in and just take a look over it, make sure that we don't see any errors with it before you go through the final steps of filing. So we'll do that review for you. I hope this video has been helpful, and thank you for watching.